Everybody, and welcome to the Forum for the High School Board. I am Sue Cooney, Voter Services for League of Women Voters Southwest Santa Clara Chapter, and we are sponsors tonight. You may know that the League is a nonpartisan organization. We do not endorse any party or any candidate. Tonight we'll be hearing from the candidates running for the Lgsuhsd District High School Board. That's a long thing to say. Yes. But first I want to thank our helpers. In the back we have from the Lgsuhsd is Colleen, who opens the facility for us and will close the facility for us. So thank you, Colleen. Also we have, this has changed, greeters. Nicole Jacoby. Marie. And question sorters, Ann Stewart, Wendy Hendry. Dan Hendry is our timekeeper. Jane Boyd is staffing the table outside, and there are flyers there. And if you want a question, raise your hand, and someone will bring you a 3x5 card and a pencil. You can write the question out. They will pick it up when you're ready and give it to our question sorters. And their job is to make sure that we don't have 10 questions, all the same thing, that are given to our moderator. With that, let's start the evening. I'd like to welcome our moderator, who's behind me, Eleanor Yick, president of the chapter. Let's go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Eleanor Yick. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Southwest Santa Clara Valley. We cover the cities of Los Gatos, Saratoga, Campbell, and Montecito. We're thrilled that you're here tonight. The format for tonight's forum will be the following. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to questions from our audience, and we'll randomize the order after the first round. Submitted questions from the audience should be of general interest because every candidate will answer every question. The format, as I mentioned, will include the opening statement, questions from the audience, and then a closing statement, which I'll go over later. The forum tonight is scheduled to last approximately 50 minutes. Our question sorters over here, who are league members, are going to select the questions and combine those that are related to the same topic, and will pass them on to me. Again, the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to those questions. After we finish with questions from the audience, we'll have closing statements, and again, each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. To help keep us on track, we have our timekeeper, Dan Hendry, who will signal each candidate of when their time is up. Either he'll tell you 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then stop. In the interest of time and decorum, the League asks our audience and candidates to abide by the following agreed-upon standards for civil discourse. The questions to the audience should be written on the cards passed out by the League and collected by a League member and handed in to the sorters. We request that there are no audience demonstration of any kind, clapping, whatever. We ask that you turn off all electronic devices. If by chance someone is able to record something, we ask you to respect the fact that the candidates are speaking within the context of a question and to not quote them out of context. We are also thrilled tonight that this forum is being live streamed, first of all, and is also being recorded by KCAT and will be shown additional times on Channel 15. We will be posting those times on our website. Now, let's introduce the candidates. We have 4 candidates running for 3 open seats. The candidates are seated in an order that they selected prior to the forum. First, we have Cynthia Chen. Second, Denise Herrera. Third, Denise Ramon Herrera. Third, David Guidry. And fourth, Peter Hertan. Thank you again for coming. We are now ready to begin with our opening statements, and we'll start with Ms. Chang.
Good evening. Thank League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and I also want to thank everyone for coming tonight. My name is Cynthia Chen, running for my re-election of Los Gatos Saratoga High School District. For the past 20 years, I have had the privilege of serving our district as a board member. During my tenure, I have worked hard to provide an excellent education and a safe, nurturing learning environment to our students. Transparency, communication, and community engagement are also my top priorities. As a CPA with extensive financial and knowledge and experiences, I'm a strong advocate of fiscal responsibility and prudent reserve policy to address both the current need and future sustainability of our district. I also work hard with others to ensure the passage of facility bond and parcel tax measures so we can have state-of-the-art facilities and stable local funding. In addition, I will continue to focus on the following: development of social-emotional well-being of our students, excellence in academic and extracurricular programs for all students, promotion of respect, kindness, and inclusion at both school campuses. It is my pleasure to serve the district for such a long time, and I always feel excited and energetic about serving this position. The parents look younger and younger now. Students look the same though. They are always high school age kids. So with that, I would like to thank you all for coming again. And now I conclude my first remark. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I say Ms. Herrera, or do you want Ramon in there also? Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Thank you so much. Good evening, community members. I decided to run for school board because I'm passionate about giving back to our community. I served as a California public school employee in administrative role for 35 years, and actually 33 years in the Los Gatos Union School District K through 8 in the business and superintendent's office. My children, Joseph and Christina, are graduates of Los Gatos High School and are successful due to the district's strong and academic and supportive programs. I'm a qualified leader who has lived in the mountain community with my husband for over 20 years. There's always room for fiscal improvement. I currently serve on the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, and the Budget Advisory Committee, helping to secure future financial success for the district. I was one of the campaign leaders for the Measure A Parcel Tax 2016 renewal. The funding source provides approximately $900,000 per year. Thank you, community. I care about the voices of the community and participate in the following organization: the Santa Clara County Committee on School District Organization, the American Red Cross, Los Gatos Lions Club, History Club of Los Gatos Music in the Park, and the Mountain Emergency Rescue Corps. I'm an active member of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce and a recent graduate of Leadership Los Gatos. I have a retiree membership with the California Association of School Business Officials, and that's CASBO. I continue my professional development through seminars, conferences, boot camps, training, online learning on the topic of education, leadership, and all K through 14 business disciplines. CASBO aggressively advocates for sound policy in the areas of business and finance for the benefit of public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guidry.
Hello, my name is David Guidry. I'd like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for organizing this event and giving us this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge my great volunteers who've helped me on my campaign so far. I'd never be able to handle running for office without their support. I'm here tonight because I'm running for the Los Gatos Saratoga Union High School District Governing Board. It's quite a mouthful, you're right. I believe that with my extensive and successful work experience, combined with my heavy involvement with the district today, I am the best choice for this position. I've lived in this area for most of the past 40 years and still believe it's one of the best places on earth. After getting a chemical engineering degree from UC Berkeley, I worked here as an engineer for almost 15 years. I then went to London Business School for my MBA, coming back afterwards to stay in high tech but moved to marketing. I've worked for several very successful local companies, including SanDisk and Altera, helping to develop and market some of the revolutionary technology we use today. More recently, I turned my focus to volunteering in my community, with a particular focus on education. I was co-president of the Saratoga Education Foundation, and I'm currently president of the Saratoga High School Foundation. I particularly enjoy opportunities to work with our amazing kids and have coached AYSO soccer and Math Olympiad, and I'm currently a chaperone lead for the Saratoga High School Marching Band. I've also been an assistant scoutmaster with the Boy Scouts, and I love libraries, and I'm on the board of the Friends of the Libraries. If you give me the opportunity to serve on the board, I will work hard to make sure our schools continue to be leaders in academics while focusing on developing our kids into successful adults. I'm a strong believer in making sure that all of our kids are successful and that we develop the whole child. The current board has recently hired a new superintendent, and I have spent a lot of time with, and I'm very excited to work with him. He brings an openness and care for our kids and community that I want to focus on as a board member. I hope that I can win your vote tonight and look forward to serving you as a member of our high school board.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hertan?
Thank you. And I too appreciate the League of Women Voters putting this on. We did a similar event across the street yesterday for the town council members, and we had pretty good turnout as well. Thank you all for attending. I am running because I feel it's an important civic responsibility to participate in your government. I started in that direction when I was in high school. It was in the middle of the Cold War. There were fallout from bomb testing, and there were fallout shelters. I volunteered to operate ham radio. This is 60 years ago. And I have continued doing that ever since. 2 years ago, I joined a local political discussion group called the Lgsuhsd Democracy Tent. And we talked about principally the town's government and its budgets and so on. And suddenly I realized and started lecturing to people, wait a minute, the taxpayers are paying just as much for the schools as for the town. And we should be focusing on the schools just as much as on the town. So people said, well, do something about it. So I decided to run. I filed just a day before the deadline, and here I am. The reason I'm interested in schools, so we moved here 40-something years ago. We got married while we're living here. We raised our daughter. She went to all the schools, and she got her career focus in high school. I am very indebted to the quality and the inspiration of the school teachers of the high school. Probably many of them are still here from when my daughter was a student, because I saw them back to school night. So for many years, I was very active in the high school district as a member of the Superintendent's Council, and then I became the appointee to the Institute of Computer Technology, which specialized in teaching teachers how to use computers. And I was on that board for 8 years, and Cynthia was the first person to appoint me. I participated in a lot of other things, including the civil grand jury and so on. My biography is on my website, peter4lgs.org.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move to the audience questions, and our first one is, what is your understanding about the district reserve, and what is your position of dealing with it? We'll begin with you, Ms. Chang.
The reserve, for those of you knowing me, is dear and near to my heart. I've been promoting to have a board study session regarding reserve. And just at the last board meeting, we spent an hour and a half. We have a retreat, and we're addressing the reserve. So what we did, I always took inventory first. So I want to know what's the trend of our reserve, of our district. Secondly, what other school districts are doing. And also, we review the language in our board policy. So it's an ongoing process, because right now our reserve is pretty low. It's only 5.some%, which has dropped substantially. And it's a way to work back, but it's a joint effort to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Yes, thank you for that question. And reserves are important. So there is a board policy of Lgsuhsd of what the reserve should be, but there's also the state policy. So as Ms. Chang said, it is important to go back and evaluate what a reserve should be, because there is going to be a rainy day, and school districts need to be prepared. You know, when the governor passed the budget, you know, he gave us one-time monies, and that's one time. So, you know, school just brings the money in, but it's only for 1 year. So it is really important for the district to evaluate reserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guidry.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually at the study session that the board did on the reserves, and it was a little bit of a surprise to me to find that the reserves had been allowed to drop that low to where they were under 6% now, and after having been like over 10% just a few years ago. At the time, we have a new CBO. They weren't able to give us a good answer for the reason for that. And so I'm very concerned and want to make sure that we understand why our reserves have dropped, and need to understand what we could do to see if we can bring those reserves back up. We've been very blessed economically over the past several years, and normally in those conditions, I would like to have seen our reserves growing so that we would have the ability to continue to provide excellent education even during the lean years. And that's an important thing for me to make sure that we figure out what we can do to get those reserves back to a level that I think is very comfortable.
Thank you. Mr. Herdan.
I too participated in that study session, and first you should know that the state requires a minimum of 3% in all school districts as reserves. Dr. Grove mentioned that in his school district that he was employed by for 20, 30 years, the reserves were 30%. When you look at the average over all of the school districts in California, it's 15%. When you look at the area high school districts, the reserves average 17%. So we're at about 5%. And let's assume that there was a recession in 2021. Just take that as a given. There was a recession in 2001, 2011. Let's assume it's in the next 10 years. So how do we deal with that? So the answer is not to look at what the averages are of other school districts. It's to look at what it means in Los Gatos. What are we prepared to do if there's a recession? And in the banking world, it's called a stress test. So we have to look at what happened in 2001 in our school district, in 2011, to see what lessons and what we had to do to survive that downturn. That should determine the level of reserves.
Thank you. We'll now go to the next question and begin with Ms. Ramon Herrera. Board policy on harassment talks about responding to both on-campus and off-campus bullying, harassment, and intimidation. What ideas do you have to stop bullying at our schools?
You know, again, that's a great question regarding the bullying and harassment. And as working in a school district, I can tell you that did happen, of course. And we refer to our board policies of how to handle it, and especially, off-site also. We look to the administrative staff, includes our superintendent, everyone, to guide the board of how to handle that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Guidry?
Thank you. Yeah, I would say a lot of that has to be driven through the administration and looking for ways to do that. And in my opinion, a lot of it comes from making sure that the kids know each other and that they respect each other. One of the things that we just recently funded through the High School Foundation for the Saratoga High School was something called Breaking Down the Walls. And a lot of that was to accomplish that exactly, is to get people together of different backgrounds and different conditions so they get a chance to know each other and understand where they're coming from and why they are the way they are and what they can do to be able to show more respect towards each other. And I think that's really kind of a key way to get to do better on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hertan?
I recall when my daughter was in high school, and the middle school, there was a big emphasis on anti-drugs. And so there was a lot of training in how to deal with the drug temptations. I think that's transitioned now to worrying about bullying and harassment and so on. And it takes a buddy system, so it's a combination of the school resource officer being a buddy and available, as well as obviously teachers, but within the student body, there have to be peer counselors that people, the younger students feel free to go and talk to. And it has to be a culture where it's not seen as squealing to bring forward the fact that you're being bullied.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
Again, this is a topic near and dear to my heart, especially with what's happening around us in the world. I also serve as Asian Pacific Islander School Board Member Association, was former president, now is Northern California vice president. We recently held a seminar, Knowledge is the Key, regarding sexual harassment at K through 14, also community safety. And we were very fortunate to have one of the counselor of our school district, Cheryl Hodgins, to talk about the sex harassment issues. It is mandatory reporting. So if you are suspicious, report it. At the same time, don't worry about damaging the teacher's reputation, because actually we have police who is very experienced, and also social workers. They will do a comprehensive investigation. So I think it is very important for everybody to watch out for the best interest of our kids.
Thank you. Our next question, and we'll begin with Mr. Guidry. Pension payments through PERS and STRS put a continuing strain on school budgets. How will you prioritize the needs of the students with the realities of these pension demands on the budget?
Thank you. Yeah, pensions are absolutely the most important issue that I think the board is going to be facing, or one of the most important. You can see that in terms of the growth of the pension contribution that the board is facing this year alone, which is almost 10%. And that amount is going to continue to grow. This is probably going to be the biggest financial thing that we need to try to address and work with. How can we do this in a way that allows us to not have to impact the programs that we offer our kids? I think the key with that is to make sure that we are smart in terms of the planning, and that we understand all of the financial issues and plan well into advance, so that we don't just try to meet on a yearly basis, but we look out 3 years, 5 years, even longer into what our needs are going to be and how are we going to be able to address that financially and be able to plan for that. And I think that would be very helpful in terms of making sure that we continue to support the programs that we need to support for our kids.
Thank you. Mr. Hertan.
Thank you. So it's a problem that people don't recognize the magnitude of. In my first year on the grand jury, we did a resurvey after 5 years of a report we did in 2011, excuse me, and that was about the unfunded accrued liability that municipalities have. It's just as bad in the school system. So in Los Gatos, it's going to approach 25% of the budget. In the school district, it is 10% because it's $10 million, or 10% of the budget right now, but it's that unfunded liability. CalPERS and CalSTRS are not able to invest the money so that there's a market return comparable to what was expected when they issued the annual bill. So the way the town has responded is the model that I'm suggesting for the school district, which is to establish an IRS 115 fund in order to be able to manage the money bigger than essentially just inflation rate. Otherwise, we'll never catch up. We're going to continue to run behind.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
Yes, I would like to suggest, I'm an accountant, so I always take inventory. So what I like to do is to review the existing programs we have and assess the benefit and the need, and then making sure we prioritize the programs. But at the same time, we actually have to be very, very careful with the mounting liability on us. Because I have some numbers here. For 2017-18, this PERT is 15.531%. That's the employer's contribution rate. By 2020-21, it will become 23.8%. So 16% to 24%, you do the math. It is really an enormous liability we are facing. This is a countrywide problem we are facing. So I think it takes the legislators also to work along with the school district to make sure we don't damage our wonderful educational programs we are providing here.
Thank you. Ms. Ramon Herrera?
Thank you so much. Yes, STRS and PERS are, the amounts are astronomical. In fact, I am a PERS recipient, so thank you very much, community, for my my payment each month. You know, but school districts are a people organization, and the first thing they have to promise of the budget is to pay the employees at the burdens, including the STRS and the PERS. So as far as what we can look at, you know, it's going to be through, you know, the CBO and again, administrative staff with their suggestions and the Budget Advisory Committee reviewing that. You know, fortunately, we have the parcel tax. We're able to employ specific teachers, but the STRS and PERS, yes, it is a problem, but it's something that the districts have no choice. They have to do this. They also provide, you know, we do an actual area report. So that's something the district will have to look at and not compromise, you know, the educational programs. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll begin the next question with Mr. Hertan. What are your top 2 priorities for the district moving forward?
Thank you. So number 1 is financial stability, because I think the challenge will be reacting to a recession and count on it in the next couple of years, so that it has to really look at scenarios of what will the school district do if there is a recession comparable to 2001 and 2011 in 2021. Start planning that now, because you got to believe it's going to happen. So that's number 1. Number 2 is certainly doing something much better than the average school district in dealing with the CalPERS and CalSTRS unfunded liability. The third is something, or the next one has to do with the change of law to require students to be not obligated to pay for extracurricular activities. So right now, participation in the extracurricular activities is dropping because there's no money there for paying for transportation, uniforms, and so on. It has to be done voluntarily. It can't be collected or demanded. So it has to be some process to start collecting either a foundation or something, since you're worrying about funding school activities.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
Yes, my first priority for sure is the finance concern we have all shared and heard about. But at the same time, I really want to put great emphasis on the social emotional well-being of our students. I'm a firm believer of whole child. And I think kids nowadays are under a lot of pressures, and they are also under a lot of influences of the outside world, especially with the internet connection. So I know both high schools are doing great things. I would just cite an example. I know Los Gatos High School currently have the school pledge. They really value respect, inclusion, dignity, and I think that's one thing we can really emphasize, not costing us too much money, but I think it's going to make a major, major impact on our students' life.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramon Herrera?
Thank you. You know, today, I mean, I live in the mountain community, and I met with the superintendent, Lisa Frazier, because we are, you know, I'm a Lions Club member, and so up in the mountains, we have a Lgsuhsd program. And the discussion we talked about, and this was from Fisher, and it's about bridge builders. So again, I think students, my first priority are students, of course, the education, their safety, but especially their learning environment. It's really important for students to be respected, to learn, and to be cared about by the staff, by everyone. The second one would be that the communication to the community about the school, about our school district, about Lgsuhsd Saratoga Union High School District, and to embrace the mountain community, and for Saratoga and Lgsuhsd to be a district of one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guidry?
Thank you. I don't think there's any question that the financial strength of the district is the #1 priority, and we need to make sure that we understand what the expectations are in the future, how we manage the increases in pension requirements, and how we could handle an economic downturn if one were to come upon us. So in my mind, there's no question that that's #1 priority, and that's something that the board is uniquely responsible for, so it's absolutely important that they get that right. The other area for me that I think is really important is communication between the district and the parents, with the community, with the students. I feel that that communication was not there as much over the past few years. That's an area that I'm actually very excited about with the new superintendent, because I've seen a much higher level of communication between him and the people in the district and with the community at large. It actually came up at the Los Gatos City Council meeting as well, where even the mayor himself felt that he didn't have good communication between the city council and the high school. And so that's absolutely another thing that I think needs to be improved.
Thank you very much. I'm going to combine the next two questions into one, but the first one is really kind of background. It says, there are 2 high schools in our high school district. What is your vision to make the 2 campuses, Los Gatos and Saratoga, feel more unified? Now, on top of that, it says, how might you address the current trend of Saratoga High School being known as the STEM school and Los Gatos High as being more balanced? Los Gatos High can offer more classes because there are more students. At Saratoga, there is not as much choice, and students aren't as interested in classes like cooking and industrial arts, yet students who would like to take those classes are missing out. How would you remedy this? So I see 2 parts of it. You know, how do you create a community of one, even though you have 2 high schools, and then the perceptions of both of the schools. So the person who will go first this time is Ms. Chang.
Yes, I think it's just like a family. You have 2 kids. They are unique in their own characteristic, and yet they are all family members. So now we have a common schedule, and we also are doing a lot of collaborations among the staff across the board from both high schools. And so I'm very confident that we are moving to the right direction. In terms of the second part, a lot of time I think the perception people have, they are picturing Saratoga kids more like a nerdy. They are only interested in STEM. Although I have 2 kids graduate from Saratoga High School, they are equally interested. One of them is here. They are equally interested in the liberal education part. And so we have wonderful music programs and everything else, you know, music program, robotics, and other things. So, and then for Los Gatos, I think Los Gatos has 2,000 students, where Saratoga only 1,400 students. So there is the limit in terms of offering more electives.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Ms. Ramon Herrera.
That was a big question, but I hope I can answer that. So as far as a community is one, and we talk about Los Gatos and Saratoga, but we also have to include Lakeside and Loma Prieta, the mountain people. And so how do we do this? How do we all work together? And that is something I would like to see, and that's, people have talked about that. And again, we'd have to look to the district office, the administrators, the principals, and maybe the principals of the high school, of each high school, meeting with superintendents of Lakeside, Saratoga, Loma Prieta, and Los Gatos Union School District, because we focus down here, but we've got some students up in the mountains that will be coming to Los Gatos. So it's something that the district has to look at. It could be through, time's almost up. But the other question regarding electives, I think electives should be all the way across. Okay, STEM, great. My daughter is the director of the outreach at Los Gatos Ballet. She went into visual arts. So she was on more of taking the photography classes and the arts classes, dance classes. So it's important that all students have an opportunity to take any elective.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guidry.
Thank you. Yeah, I think first off, a lot of that perception is really just misplaced. If you really look at Saratoga High School, they have enormous band and symphonic orchestra. They have participation in a range of sports, and very active participation and very successful participation in a number of those sports. So, and then on the Los Gatos side, I'm very impressed with the academic performance of Los Gatos. And, we have a whole brand new building with a focus on STEM at Los Gatos High School. So to say that Los Gatos is not STEM focused is actually also incorrect. So I really think, to start with, a lot of that perception is not really true. I think it's a lot different than what people really believe. The other thing is that I do think that with a common schedule, I would like to see if we could find a way to better share resources so that we could make more classes available within Saratoga High School, and then we could also find a way to make Los Gatos more available to kids as well, so that we can support whatever growth that we see coming up in this community. And so I think that's a lot of it is a perception issue and not a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hurtan.
So I think there are community differences. When you look at the test scores and the ranking of Saratoga High School, I think it's number 2 in the country or in the state, and Los Gatos is like number 13. So there is a difference of demographics and of interests of the two communities. And we need to respect that and build on that. The alignment of schedules permits the opportunity for teachers to move between locations so that the kids who can have choice don't have to move to the different schools. Mm-hmm. It should be a very open process for getting a student to enroll in Los Gatos versus Saratoga, vice versa, to pick the one that best matches the student's interests. Mm-hmm. So as long as there's choice of which school to go to, respect the differences in the communities and build on that, embrace it.
Thank you. The next question is, what is one thing the district does best? And we'll start with Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Thank you. What the district does best is to prepare all students after they graduated. And I mean, all of us moved into this community because we care about education. We bought homes that have a pretty big tax on it, property taxes, but we did this because we cared. And we cared about our students, all our students, to be successful. And that's one thing that the Los Gatos Saratoga Union High School does. They prepare the students for the future.
Thank you. Mr. Guidry?
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that one of the things that I think the district is doing very well right now is really focusing a lot on the student and what are the needs of the students to be able to be productive as adults when they grow up and to get them to that stage. There's been a lot of focus on social emotional learning. There's been a heavy investment in things like CASI and in having counselors to help not just with the academics, but also with community service. We have a person whose entire job is to just help students find service projects within the school. and within the community. And I think that's fantastic to see that kind of effort. So being able to take the kids and not just provide them a focus entirely on academics, but to bring them a broad range of things so that the kids learn not just to do well in college, but also how to do well as adults. And I think that's something they do very well.
Thank you. Mr. Hertan?
I went to back to school night at both high schools, and I had a chance to listen to the introduction to the teachers that they gave to the parents. And what I came away with is, first, most of the teachers have a very long tenure here. So that's going to be a source of inspiration for the students. So they see that teachers are really there to provide community service. They believe not in making money in Silicon Valley, but in providing benefit to the community by teaching kids. So community service is a big part of it, but it's also even bigger is the inspiration for a career. So I'm building on the experience of my daughter, who got inspiration to go into medicine as a result of the school, and I saw that in the way that the teachers were talking to the parents. I saw that they would easily inspire the students.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
In the last one, I would like to say all of above,
Yeah.
if I may. But I also want to say what I think our district does best is providing a very caring environment. And I want to paraphrase what our superintendent said at the convocation. He said when he hired a teacher, he looked for the teacher who loved students, because he can teach the teacher how to do a lesson plan, but he cannot teach this candidate how to love kids. And so I think that's our philosophy, and I'm so glad, our new superintendent has the same philosophy. So I think providing the caring environment to our kids, knowing they can always count on the staff, and at the same time trying their best to fulfill their potential, it's something our district does best.
Thank you very much. The next question, and we'll start with Mr. Guidry. What are your ideas on supporting the LGBTQ students in our schools?
Well, I think there's, I think that's an important part of what we talked about before with the respect for students and being able to put in programs that help the kids to be able to understand each other and respect each other. I think, I don't want to say it's a simple solution, but I think one solution could be something as issue as not just having gender bathrooms, just have bathrooms that can support whichever gender. That may not be particularly easy to do right now. I know bathrooms are actually an issue in Saratoga High School. Nobody seems to like the bathrooms there, the students especially. So maybe this could be an opportunity to rebuild those bathrooms in a way that could be more inclusive of all of the students and their needs.
Thank you. Mr. Hertan?
So this is an emerging issue, certainly in California. Clearly, bathrooms are a big part of it because you're identifying who you are, but a lot of it is going to come from counseling and showing acceptance within the programs that are providing, as I said before, orientation toward how you handle drugs, how you're handling bullying, how you handle acceptances of differences. So that takes a lot of education by the teachers to make sure the students really believe that. And the second thing is to have the student counselors. Just as we talked about having student counselors that younger students can go to for assistance if they're bullied, there needs to be the same thing with student counselors who are trained to provide acceptance.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
Yeah, I agree that we have to provide good educational programs. And also, I think both schools are doing quite well from what I understand. I know bathroom is an issue, but I think currently for our school district, if the bathroom is one slot, you know, it's just like that you go in and then it's only one person can use it, it's gender not identified. But if it's a group of bathrooms, I think for some safety concern or some, we still have women's bathroom and men's bathroom. But that's just one issue. I think we have to address the overall concern about protecting the LGBTQ students' rights and making sure they are well respected and included in our school community.
Thank you. Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Yes, LGBT, that, you know, students, they have that right, and the teachers, the administrators, they are trained to respect student choices. So, and yes, we embrace all students. The climate at a school should be comfortable for all the students. So how do we do that? We do it through education. We do it by having community, or at the school sites, the community type clubs that would have discussions. Maybe they would have a retreat, something like that. But really, they're students, they're all students, whether it be LGBT or what label you want to put on a student. I think it's really important that we respect everyone.
Thank you. The next question actually is about traffic and traffic safety, which I know is a major issue in the Los Gatos community, and it probably is in Saratoga. And I'm going to combine these two questions too. Traffic safety and congestion is a big problem, especially in the morning. If this problem is not addressed effectively, I fear a tragedy will occur. What do you propose for how the school district should address this problem? And in particular, Los Gatos High School's parking problems are well known in the community. Neighbors seem to be always upset with students parking in their neighborhoods. So how would you attempt to address this traffic issue in both schools? And we'll start with Mr. Hertan.
It is a question very near and dear to me. I started out on the Los Gatos Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, courtesy of our town council, 5 years ago. And obviously I advocate for bicycle use and being a pedestrian. But second, I've moved over to the town's Transportation and Parking Commission, which has championed and actually created the program that the town council picked up, and that is to fund school bus programming. So a big part of congestion management is to eliminate the need for cars by having busing and by having pedestrian, bicycle, and scooters. Scooters are the emerging thing for San Jose State students. It can happen here. You have to have a regional location for parking, however, and so it may be a lot that's at Lark and Winchester, or it may be Miles Avenue. It has to be parking that's away from the center of town. And then the last mile can be done by bicycles or scooters.
Thank you. Ms. Chang?
Again, this is a topic near and dear to my heart, and I applaud the work Peter has done. I actually came to this room attending the Los Gatos Town Council meeting, I think it's probably 2 years ago, representing my own school board, and listening to the presentation about this particular issue. So I think we have to be considerate in terms of solving the congestion. So perhaps carpooling is one choice. Now it's so easy to have the internet, so maybe we can have people sign up with similar locations, so carpooling and also biking to schools. And I myself was one of the parent volunteers directing traffic at Harriman Avenue because I'm from Saratoga High School. It was a lot of fun, and because students were so polite. And then the cars were also very polite. Students came by and say hi, and I I really enjoyed it. So after this election is over, perhaps I can go back to that job.
Thank you. Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Wow, Cynthia, that's really hard to follow. But I must admit, when Lexington School was down on the Fisher campus, I also directed TRAP so the parents understood how to get into the Fisher parking lot. But enough about that. You know what, in 2015, May of 2015, the Los Gatos Union School District, we put on the Safe Route to School Summit. So if we're going to talk about traffic, let's talk about scooters or bicycling to work, or the other ones to share rides. But out of that, I mean, the town officials were there, Michael Wasserman was the moderator, we had health officials, and they really came up with some pretty good ideas. And a few months later, we had the bike lanes that were, well, I said anointed or baptized or anything. And it was really exciting. All the kids were there, and, you know, Marika was there, and I believe Rob Rennie, and it was very successful. So school districts can work with the town to resolve issues like traffic.
Thank you. Mr. Guidry?
Thank you. Yeah, I know this was an issue from having talked to just about everybody that I talked to in Los Gatos. It seems to be coming up. The same would be true probably in Saratoga. If you talk to any parents, the first thing that you'll start hearing them complain about is the traffic in front of the school during pickup and drop-offs. And my understanding was that the city council is currently doing a traffic study to try to resolve this issue in front of Los Gatos, and it's absolutely something that our board would want to be a part of and understand what we could do to help support coming up with good solutions for that, because parking for students here at Los Gatos is absolutely at the core of some of the problems that they're seeing with traffic in this area. I think the other thing is really to see if we can find a way to lower the amount of car usage, similar to what Peter was talking about. It feels to me that a lot more kids drive and are driven to school than there were when I was a kid. And I don't want to, I'm certainly not going to get in the climbing the hills kind of story. But I think there's certainly ways that we could probably try to find of doing that. And I'd actually thought of the carpool one as well. If there's limited parking spots, maybe you could find a way to, if you carpool with your friends, then you get a spot more quickly and more easily.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. That concludes our question and answer period from the audience. We will now hear closing statements from each candidate in reverse order. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their closing statement. This is an opportunity for you to bring up anything that was not brought up during the question and answer period that you think is important or is part of your campaign. So we will begin with Mr. Hertan.
Thank you. So I will tell you why I would like you to vote for me. Certainly I bring a broad experience with government, much to my wife's consternation and many of my friends, because most of my time is spent on commissions and boards and so on. So in addition to that broad experience, I believe in the philosophy of continuous improvement. And so change is needed because you can always do better. So no matter how good you think it is, there are opportunities to look for improvements. As I mentioned before, one of my focuses certainly will be on how to improve financial stability. And the last thing is, because I will continue on the various commissions, both in the county and in the town, being a bridge to the municipal government is very important in order to come up with solutions to traffic issues and similar. So thank you for considering me. Peter, the number 4, Lgs.org.
Thank you. Next we'll have Mr. Guidry.
Thank you. So once again, I'd like to thank you, the League of Women Voters, for hosting this event. And I wanted to thank everybody that's attending this event. I really appreciate that you're here. To me, elections are the key to our democracy, and I think it's really important to see people out here learning and understanding what the candidates, who they are, what they stand for, and are participating in this process, because I think this is absolutely critical to our country and to our community. I wanted to reinforce that I think we've all brought up probably in some form that the number one thing that we've seen in terms of the success in this district has been support for our students. And I think that's something that I want to make sure that we continue to do as a district, that we support our students, that we respect their choices, and that we meet their needs. And that's absolutely going to be the number one priority for me in terms of what we can do on the district. I had a little bit more that I was going to read here. So we live in a great area, and we're lucky to have two fantastic high schools. And I hope you will trust me with the opportunity to be able to work in this district and to be able to continue to make this a great community to live in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramon Herrera.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. You know, what an opportunity for all of us to share our ideas and answer your questions. You know, what an honor. You know, I want to dedicate my campaign, and if I am elected, you know, to the students, administrative staff, teachers, and employees of the Los Gatos Saratoga Union High School District. I'm committed to continue the excellent academic, innovative program the district offers, while representing the diverse interest of all students. I care about student safety. As a volunteer for the American Red Cross, I feel strongly about providing programs that ensure safe learning environments for student teachers and staff. While future school funding remains uncertain, I will do the utmost to maintain a quality education for all students, high achieving and special needs alike. I bring the experience, knowledge, and commitment to serve on the Los Gatos Union School District Governing Board, and would be honored by your vote on November 6th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ms. Cheng?
I have a passion for education, which I believe is the foundation of our society. Serving on the board, knowing I have made an impact on students' lives, have been one of the most rewarding experiences for me. With the hiring of our new superintendents and 2 board members retiring, I hope to help with a smooth transition and the stability of our district. For your information, Rosemary, Rossi, Robin Mano, also Catherine Zinn, they are the current board members, they are all endorsing me. With my experience, integrity, and commitment, if re-elected, I will continue to work hard to provide the best education so our students will become contributing members of the global society. Thank you so much for your vote and confidence in me. Good night.
Thank you. That concludes our forum. I would like to thank the candidates again for participating. I would also like to thank all the volunteers who have made this forum possible, the League of Women Voters of Southwest Santa Clara Valley, including the timers, question sorters, program planning and setup, and our 2 voter service directors, Wendy Hendry and Sue Cooney. I'd also like to mention that the League has quite a bit of material out in the lobby. In particular, you might want to notice when the League is putting on what we call pros and cons. We do that on all the 11 state ballot measures and the 4 local measures that will impact all of you. We also have notices about future candidate forums that are coming up, and so I'd like to encourage you to take copies of those on your way out. Thank you very much for coming. Good night.
And we also have campaign materials outside.
And campaign material. How could I forget that? I'm sorry. Okay.